Hello, business owners. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Mariana Dalto, and our guest today is ST Rappaport. She's a brain engineer who works with entrepreneurs to unleash their potential via peak brain performance. ST helps them optimize their brain so they can remove overwhelm, get more done in less time, and enjoy growing their business again. Welcome, ST, to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here with you today.
Me too. And this topic is super interesting. So I can't wait to learn more about it. So first, tell us a little bit about your journey and what inspired you to become a brain engineer.
Yeah, so I've been studying the brain and how we've been thinking really since the age of 17. And during that time, I took a Tony Robbins course, a Tony Robbins program called Rapid Planning Method, essentially how to plan based on your motivation instead of your to-do list. And I thought that was really cool. Except no matter how hard I tried and how many times I did the exercises, I've really I struggled implementing what he was talking about. And so I was like, okay, maybe this is just not for me. And then a few months later, I took another training on a specific thinking skill called categorizations, which really helps you with categorizing and organizing the information in your brain and being able to see the big picture, being able to think ahead, things like that. And I was like, hey, I need this. And as soon as I improved that thinking skill, I realized that I could do Tony's program without even doing it again. Like all of a sudden it made sense. And I was like, I just need to do XYZ. And that changed. And I saved over 10 hours every week from just restructuring my week. I tripled my business. My relationships improved. Everything changed. And I was like, okay,
That's a
everyone needs
big
this.
shift.
Successful
That's
needs
huge.
yeah. And I was like, yeah, we need this. The more impact you have in this world, the stronger your thinking skills are, the greater, the more people you can really impact.
So how did your career evolve, like now having this big shift within, your brain and the way you manage things differently now?
Yeah. In the actual business, are you asking, or are you asking in just how I run business, on an operational manner?
Um, First within your own business, yeah, how you run your own business now with this new shift that you learn, and then you will talk about how you help people within this
Yeah.
training.
So how I operate my
Yes,
business better.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Okay. So originally at that time, I only worked with people one-on-one, and I was like, the only way to really help them have good improvements is by working one-on-one. And as soon as I improved this thinking skill, then I realized that I need to make these slight shifts. Then not only working in small groups, I can still get the same results. If anything, they get better results. I've also changed the way I've approached tasks and structured tasks so that way I get more done in less time. So at that time, I was very much like everything needed to happen now. So I didn't procrastinate. Everything was like, okay, this is on my to-do list. I'm getting it done right now. Except the problem with that is I would find myself running out to errands 3 times in one day instead of going out once to do all 3 errands because I remembered an errand and it needed to happen. It's not a very efficient way of working. And the same thing with emails. An email would come in and oh, I need to respond to that right away. So the amount of time I wasted on that was absolutely ridiculous. And as soon as my brain was able to organize information differently, then I was able to organize my tasks differently. So yes, now I only do errands once a week, or I only answer my emails once a day, but it even goes further than that. While I am doing specific tasks, I'm breaking them down into ways to really save as much time as possible.
So it's kind of an organization piece as well, like trying to organize the things. Like you're organizing your brain based on how you need to organize your business and how things need to get done.
Yeah, that's most definitely a big part of it. Not the only part, but what's funny is I was a super organized person beforehand. And so it just now organized it in a more efficient manner, which helped me save ridiculous amounts of time and improve my relationships and things like that.
Mm. So what are the common challenges do entrepreneurs face in managing their mental energy and focus?
Yeah, so a lot of it is having many open tabs. So if you feel like you have 57 open tabs in your brain at all times, and that there's just a mental drain constantly going out, often there's organized mess or just pure organization, right? It's no one's allowed to touch your mess because as soon as they do, then you can't find anything anywhere, right? Or you have like a pile of papers that are next to you that you promise yourself you're going to go through, but it's already like 3 years old. All those sort of things really take a toll and a drain on us, and get in the way of us really being able to optimize our work in a way that really is most optimal for us.
It's also having your office organized, part of the like making helping your brain as well. Like if you have your environment a little bit more organized, helps to keep more order within your brain because you don't see like stuff all over. Does that play a role or not? I don't know.
Yeah, so it's actually like a chicken and egg situation, because when your office is messy, then it's like harder for your brain to think. But actually, when your brain is a mess, then your office becomes a mess. So I always like to say, based on what I see in your desk, like tells me a lot about what's happening in your brain. So what I want to do is not like tell you, okay, go organize your desk. I want to organize your brain so that way your desk automatically becomes organized.
Interesting. So can you share a story about a particular challenging situation that you had with a client and how you helped that client overcome that problem?
Yeah, so I had a client, it was in the marketing space, and he was actually like was doing really well. But he procrastinated often, like a lot. Like he was compared to like where he was at, people would be really surprised at how much he procrastinated. He had a really, really long to-do list. Always had like sticky notes all over the place, had things all over the place. Always had this brain fog in his brain, and felt like he wasn't coming to his work with his full bandwidth and really being able to show up in his best way possible. And it was draining. He was draining on his family, because then afterwards, like he was working really late and he couldn't afterwards like be there for his family in that same sort of way. And like really his business was doing well, so he couldn't really complain, but it was just like mentally and emotionally draining. And so work together and optimize your brain program on a 90-day program where we improved his thinking skills, and specifically on how his brain computed and organized information. So it's 2 thinking skills I worked on. One is comparison and one is categorization. So how his brain computed information, so that way you could make really quick decisions and really figure out like what's best to go where. And categorization is how his brain categorized information. So now, instead of having information everywhere, as soon as a piece of information came into his brain was able to put it in the right box, in the right container. So it wasn't just like taking brain space. So that way he had like one tab open in front of him, right? Like not just physically, but also mentally. And he didn't have like hundreds of sticky notes all over the place. There was like one sticky note with 3 things that he is focusing on for the day, and that was it. And like I never told him to get rid of his sticky notes. I never told him to get rid of his to-do lists. But as soon as his brain was able to compare the information and be able to organize it mentally in the right buckets, then automatically he didn't need to feel like he needed to write it down or keep that tab open on his desktop or stuff, because it now had a place.
So is this related with changing your habits and how you do things, or how is there any relationship there?
Yeah, as you improve how your brain is thinking, you automatically change some of your habits. And a lot of this is also strengthening neuron connections, right? So a lot of the times our struggles actually is because we haven't learned a specific skill. And then the first time we do it, it's really challenging. And the second time you do it, it's that bit less challenging. And the third time it gets easier and easier. And over time, you're developing those neuron connections. A bit like going to the gym, right? Like the first time you pick up a weight, it's like heavy. But after you do it again, then it's like easier and easier and easier. And like soon it gets so easy, you don't even have to think about it. And you obviously pick up heavier weights and you can do more challenging things.
So you mentioned a 90-day program. Is that the typical time that it takes for changing habits, reorganize your brain in a way that could work differently, or everyone works at a different pace? How does that work?
Yeah, so it depends what your goal is. Like just for a habit, that's like different people, different things. Here we're really trying to identify what is getting in your way and solve that specific issue. So we're not specifically looking to like build habits, we're looking to build neuron connections in your brain. And so 90 days gives us a good time to identify it, to practice it, and to really work on it, so that way you no longer have to think about it. My goal for you is for these thinking skills to be so easy that it's just as easy as breathing oxygen, and you don't think about it. It just happens by itself. And once that happens, then like everything else just falls into place.
And you mentioned, so there's an assessment that you offer for people to kind of like understand. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, the assessment?
Yeah. So you've probably heard me mention like a few times throughout this thinking skills. There's actually, we tend to like think of like, oh, I'm thinking now. And you're like, I'm thinking. But actually your brain is thinking the entire time. Every time, anytime you're doing something, your brain, like in the background, is thinking. You're listening to the podcast right now. Your brain is thinking. You're taking in the information. You're thinking of it. Is this related to me? Is this not related to me? Right? Like, who else do I need to share this with? Your brain is thinking. And to do that thinking, your brain uses 28 thinking skills. These are foundational thinking skills that you use while you are going throughout your day. The thing is, with 28 of them, then naturally some of them are going to be stronger and some of them are going to be weaker. Those stronger ones are being really helpful to you, and those weaker ones are getting a little bit in your way. As soon as you can identify those weaker ones, then you can work on them because they're skills. And by definition, skills mean that you can learn them. And so you can then do different brain exercises and work on them until it is easy and strong again. So this assessment walks through the 28 thinking skills, and it just rates for you where you're at with each of them. There's no such thing as being right or wrong or getting put in a certain bucket. It just gives you an overview of where you're standing with each one of these 28, so you can see which ones are strong, like which ones you can use to help you, and which ones are weaker, that if you improve them, it makes your life easier.
Okay, so then once we get the assessment results, what happens after? So we get visibility, awareness of where our thinking skills are, and then what happens after that?
Yeah. After that, you know exactly which thinking skills need the most help, and you can then start down the path of working through those thinking skills. So then you have contact to me, and I'm happy to like guide you through it and tell you exactly which thinking skills you want to work on. There's like a ton of content on that of working through those specific thinking skills. Or you join our program where I work really close with you to really improve those thinking skills.
Do you work with entrepreneurs and help them, tackle overwhelm and mostly like improve their efficiency? And how, if you do, how do you help them? What are the tips and tricks that you can provide in the podcast that can help them if they're
Of
going through
course.
overwhelm?
Yeah, overwhelm is a big one, right? And now, actually, what's interesting about overwhelm is like the reason why you're overwhelmed and the reason why your friend or someone else listening to this episode is overwhelmed will be because of different reasons. And so what we want to do is we really, really want to understand why you specifically are being overwhelmed. That is going to come back to the 28 thinking skills. So if you take the assessment, then you can see, okay, like this thinking skill of, let's say, clear perception, which is just one of the thinking skills, is causing me to be overwhelmed. If you want, I can share with you some of the common thinking skills that many entrepreneurs struggle with, and I can give you ways to improve it. But everyone who's listening has to like take in context, like maybe this is for them, and maybe for them it's a different thinking skill. What do you say?
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd love to share with them. Let's do this together. What do you say is a common reason why entrepreneurs get overwhelmed? Like what is
Because they
causing
have
them?
a
The fact
lot
that
to
it's
do and
a
they
lot to
just
do.
get this, they struggle with it. So then maybe they don't know how to prioritize, or
Okay, good.
they feel stuck because they say they don't have enough time, and that's how they feel
Fabulous.
overwhelmed about that.
Yeah, okay. So that's a really good example, because when you are struggling with overwhelm because of prioritizing, it is actually coming from the thinking skill of comparisons. Your brain has all these things that are most important right now, and it's like everything needs to happen at the second. They're like, I don't know how to do this, right? However, if your brain can compare your tasks and knows what's most important, then there's no overwhelm, because you know you are working on this most important task, and everything else could wait until this most important task is done, because in your brain it's crystal clear that this is most important. So what you want to do is you want to do two things. One, you want to improve your thinking skill of comparisons. That is the foundational thinking skill to comparing. So literally take two things around you, two things, just pick up two things around you and compare them. Now, what's important is don't say like, the pen is cheaper and the earbuds are white. Like you want to compare them on the same level. Like the pen is 10 cents and the earbuds are $300 and the pen is blue and the earbuds are white, right? On the same level, because that's when that allows your brain to gather all the right information to be able to compare and make good decisions and be able to prioritize. So pick up random things from around your house, around your desk, and compare them on the same level. This is just to get your brain practicing in comparisons. Now, the second thing you want to do is bring this to your tasks. Take all your tasks, write them out on a piece of paper. Okay. Just dump them, dump them out on a piece of paper. And then you are going to compare them one by one. Which is more important, task A or task B? Which is more important? From those two, compare it to the next task. And you are literally going to put your task in priority order. Okay. And you do not move on to task number 2 until task number 1 priority is in place. Then you can breathe and you can go on to the next one. And when that one is done, you can go on to the next one. And task number 5 isn't important until task number 1. Task number 1 is done. Does that make sense?
Yes. So I like the task piece because you always have a long list of tasks to do. So you're like picking 2 from those 2 and then keep comparing until you get a ranking from 1 to 10 and then focus on one at a time, basically.
Exactly. Every time that I am feeling like pulled in 100 directions, I know that it is a sign that my tasks aren't prioritized. And I'm like, pause. Everything gets paused, and I just sit down and do this exercise. If it's beneficial to you, to the audience, I would love to share a different reason why someone else might be overwhelmed and how they could improve it, so that way people will understand what I'm saying, right? Okay, good. Mm-hmm. So this was a really good example of why you might be overwhelmed, because you're pulled in 100 directions, and it's a super common one. Another reason why an entrepreneur might be overwhelmed is because they're in a new project, in a new situation, and there's a lot of new information that's coming at them at this moment, and they're just like, oh, I just don't want to do this, and they just walk out of the room or the task, and they find other more important things to do, which are not really as important, right? They're just a lot funner and a lot easier. And that's also overwhelm. But their reason of overwhelm is not because of prioritizing. Their reason of overwhelm is because of the amount of information is coming into their brain all blurry. That is coming from a different thinking skill. That's coming from a thinking skill called clear perception. Now, most of the time we take in information through our 5 senses, so seeing, hearing, smelling, etc. And hopefully your information is coming in a clear and organized way. The thing is, when it's a lot of information, your brain may be getting overwhelmed. And that means your thinking skill of clear perception isn't strong enough to deal with this new situation, or isn't as strongest as it can be. And so you want to help yourself, because your thinking skill could get stronger. And you can just simply ask yourself, go through the 5 senses and help your brain take in that information in a clear way. So just ask yourself, what do I see? And list out all the things you see. What do I hear? And list out all the things you hear. What do I smell? And list out all the things you smell. And by doing this, instead of your brain getting overwhelmed by 100 pieces of information coming in at once, it's coming in one by one, because you are listing out, oh, I see this email from Sally and I see this text from Sarah. And now it's one piece of information, and your brain can take it in. And then you just ask yourself, okay, what's my starting point? What's my starting point? And then it's, instead of overwhelmed by this massive task with so much information that I don't know what to do, and I don't know how to get started, it's no, actually the information is organized enough for me to get started.
Interesting. So, and how does stress play a role here? And how can entrepreneurs maintain good peak mental performance when they are under stress?
Yeah. So we always want to start with basics: sleep, eat, drink, bathroom, literally basics. We sometimes forget about that. Oxygen is another big one. We're often sitting in front of our computers and
breathing,
we just forget.
Yeah, good breathing.
Yeah, right. And what happens is, when we're sitting in a room, especially with closed doors, closed windows, even if there's other people in there, we end up breathing recycled air. So every breath that you take in actually has less oxygen, because it's recycled air and more carbon dioxide. And so a simple thing is opening your window. It doesn't even take more time. I'm not even talking about going out for a walk, which will do you wonders. But if you're so stressed and you don't have time, just open that window, and you are breathing more oxygen, and you're getting that you're getting that into your brain. So obviously, like, let's start with that, like foundational. But second thing is stress. We want to understand where that stress is coming from, right? So stress is always just a symptom. Many times it's like we said earlier, like from the lack of prioritizing because priorities because of feeling pulled in 100 directions. That's a very common one, right? Or feeling super stressed because like not being able to meet a deadline for a specific project, right? So we also want to understand like what caused that and like how we can prevent that from happening again in the future.
Okay. And then if you were like based on the clients that you have that they come with different issues and that you can help them with, could be stress, overwhelm, whatever. What are some practical tips that our audience can implement today to enhance their brain performance based on the maybe top 2, 3 that people come to you because these are the common ones, and this is what I'm kind of like recommending for you, like to think about and maybe apply based on what they learned today from you.
Yeah. Okay. 3 super important things. Number 1, go slow now to speed later. So often we jump right in and we're like told like just take action, which is like really good and like that's what helps you propel you forward. But you end up spending so much unnecessary time redoing things, figuring out unspend things. Take a few seconds, think about it through, and then move forward. Okay, that's like a really, really big one. It's number 1. For those of you, I'm just gonna like throw this out to you. For those of you who are like the opposite and they're like, oh, I overthink everything and I don't move forward. There's a difference between thinking and overthinking. And that's when it's going from logical to emotional. You'll actually feel it in your body. So when you are thinking logical. As soon as you're overthinking, if you notice, you'll feel some sort of change physically in your body. It could be like your stomach clenches, your heart beats faster, something is happening. And then you're no longer thinking, you're overthinking, you're getting anxious, it's getting emotional. And then like, it's time to take action. So that's number 1. Go slow now to speed later. Number 2, you want to develop a growth mindset. So Carol Dweck, a psychologist from Stanford University, wanted to know what makes a person be successful. And she says she discovered it has nothing to do with IQ, nothing to do with talents, any of that sort of stuff. What it actually has to do with is whether you have a fixed or growth mindset. So fixed mindset believes the way they are is the way it's always going to be. And a growth mindset is always growing, learning, feedback, like takes risks, things like that. Thing is, many entrepreneurs think they have a growth mindset. They're always looking to grow their business, right? And they are hiring coaches and they are reading books. And like in many ways, they have a growth mindset. But guess what? We all have both a fixed and a growth mindset. And when you have that challenging tasks or that employee isn't doing the thing they said they would do, and a client is acting in a way that you don't want to act, and all of a sudden like you have to deal with a stupid technical issue and you're just feeling super frustrated and you are like, I can't do this, you are going into that that fixed mindset mode instead of that growth mindset mode. And so the first thing you want to do is change your language. Instead of saying I can't do this, it's like I can't do this yet, or I'll figure it out, or I need to ask someone to help. Watch your language and change it from like this is impossible to like we're going to figure this out together. That's the second thing. Yeah. And there's one more, the third thing that I like to call self-mediation. Absolute favorite thing. And like, if you implement this, you will never feel stuck again in your business and you'll always have a way moving forward. But essentially, just like a mediator comes between 2 people to like figure out a solution, self-mediation is where you stand between yourself and the challenge and ask yourself questions to come to a conclusion. So you ask yourself questions like, what do I see? What is the problem? What strategy can I use? Who else can I ask? What is this? What's the challenge here? Things like that. And through asking yourself questions and obviously answering them and following up questions, you lead towards the answer. Now, I am not saying you are always going to have the answer, and you may come to the conclusion that you need to ask someone or you need to do research or whatever it is, but you will come to a conclusion of what you can do to move forward.
Yeah, so you're trying at least to find some path to keep moving forward, regardless that you might not get the answer. Well, this is awesome. Thank you so much. I love it. Well, tell us how can the listeners learn more about you and the methods and the work that you offer for this type of work?
Yeah, so best place to start is by taking that assessment that we spoke about earlier. Go to lifepixuniversity.com/brain. And if you like socials, then, or my website, same thing, Life Picks University.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate, ST, all the insights, all the learnings. I will put all the information in the show notes for people to reach out to you if they have any questions, if they want to take the assessment. Thank you so much for the listeners to tuning in. And please do not forget to subscribe and leave a review if you enjoy this episode. Thank you so much, ST, for your time.
Thank you for having me. This is fun.
Excellent. See you next time. Bye.